Welcome to Decide to Transform. You made it to level 2, deeper questions leading to deeper answers. I'm Tomas Garza, and I'm here to help you decide to transform. I'll be setting the pace for the process to support your unfolding. Learn and commit to a practice that brings simplicity and awareness of what is ready to be released. Join me now and allow the experience of a deeper sense of love. Welcome, and I'm Tomas Garza. This is New Year's Eve. Welcome to Decide to Transform here on OMTimes Radio. I'm excited for our show today, and wherever in the world you're listening from, I hope that you have had a wonderful holiday and that you'll have a very, very happy, joyful, and prosperous New Year 2020. It's amazing. It's a great day. And we've got a great show on tap for you. During the past couple of weeks, we have been through a list of practical, accessible, feasible things that you can do, not only to start a process of growth and transformation in your life, but also, and sometimes more importantly, to continue that process. Because as we all know, we all have wonderful intentions in life. We aim to get fit and healthy. A New Year's coming up. Maybe you have a resolution or a desire to get healthy, to get fit in 2020. Just for an example. Whatever that is in your life, circumstances change and things that are unforeseen come at us. We get sick. We have work issues. Sometimes our work ends and we have to seek another avenue of work. Sometimes our relationships end, whether that is a personal relationship or whether it is the death or the illness of a loved one. Things change all of the time, and what we need as human beings are practical tools and practical resources, things that we can fall back on in order to keep going. Because if we don't keep going with a process of growth, with a process of change, and of course I like to say with a process of transformation, then our habitual tendencies will take over. If you have practiced any form of spirituality that involves meditation, such as yoga or any form of meditation, whatever that may be, you will have heard talk about our habitual tendencies. These are ingrained in us from a very young age by our parents, by our peers, by schools, by society at large, our families. They are just ways of operating that we take for granted day to day. And they may help us, if we're lucky, and they may hinder us. And we often find that as adults, our habitual tendencies and our programming, really, because it is programming, it's a bit like programming a computer, and that computer is our mind. We tend to replay the same situations, the same feelings, the same thoughts over and over and over again without touching the actual programming. There can be very little change or transformation, and while it might last for a little while, it doesn't tend to last unless you actually go in and change the internal files, go in and change the program. And that is what transformation is all about. Because once a program is changed, the output changes. In other words, if you do the internal work, your entire world will look different. You'll be living in a different world because your external circumstances will show up to match your internal programming. So along the way, what we need are some tools and some practical situations to keep going with our process of transformation, because life comes at you hard, it comes at you fast, you never know what's waiting around the bend, and it might really help you, and it might not. So we have been going through this list, and if you're curious, this list is directly lifted from chapter 21 of my book, Decide: How to Replace Your Fictions with Truth, Go Big in Life, and Transform Audaciously. That is my latest book, and it's available wherever you buy books in ebook form and also in paperback. Again, the title's Decide, and this is chapter 21. The chapter is entitled The Work to Do, and in the book it is a summary. It's a compendium of practical, accessible, and feasible things that you can do to stay on the path, quite frankly, because that's really what this is all about. It's staying on the path, getting on it and making a decision to get on it, and then once you've done that, staying on it. These are tools that can help. In the past couple of weeks, we have been through some of these items, and we have a few more left today. Today will be the final episode of this mini-series. It has turned out to be 3 shows, and you can go back, and if you missed the first 2, you can go back and listen to the shows from December 17th and December 24th, wherever you listen to podcasts. So let's launch into it today. This is the 17th item out of 25 on the list, and we'll cover all of the rest of them on the show today. And number 17 is move on from limiting beliefs with compassion. Quick explanation. By limiting beliefs, I mean these stories that we tell ourselves, and they are stories such as I can't, I'm too old, I'm too young, I am too smart, I'm not smart enough, I don't have time. These are part of our programming. They're part of the beliefs that get drilled into us from a very early age. And we find as adults that sometimes we have to move on from those. Now, by limiting beliefs, that is what I mean. Let's also say move on from situations with compassion. This could be a work situation. It could be a situation in your physical health. And it could even be a relationship. I know many of you can relate to moving on from an abusive relationship or a harmful relationship or just a relationship that's season has ended, where you've learned all you can from the situation, from the person, and it may have run its course. So moving on is something that sometimes we all have to do, and you might be in the process of moving on from something like this right now. If you are, you may find that you're tempted to go out guns blazing. Correct? We have all been in a situation where we wanted to throw the middle finger at something or someone and go out guns blazing, absolutely irate, in an F-bomb laced tirade that never ended, and just walk away, burn all our bridges, go back, shoot the middle finger again. Things that I'm not going to say on the air, you can read into it, of course, and move on in that way, having torched all possibility of ever going back and having a continued relationship with a person, with a situation, with a thing. That's an option. And it's not for me to decide what you should and shouldn't do, but what I want to propose is something that is an alternative. Moving on from a situation with compassion can involve keeping the option open to have an ongoing relationship. If you are divorcing and you and the other parent have kids, for example, that is just one situation. I spent a lot of years of this lifetime, 13 to be exact, working in family and child custody mediation. And this is something that I have great experience with, from mediating with and counseling and coaching literally thousands of clients over that 13-year period. There are some situations where you want to keep a relationship, at least a basic communication relationship, intact. So how do you move on from a harmful or painful situation with compassion? One way is something that I've learned in the last couple of years. The phraseology could go like this. You could say thank you to the person, to the situation. Thank you. You've taught me a great deal, but we're doing things differently from now on. Right? Thank you. You've taught me a great deal, and we're doing things differently from now on. And you could add, you won't be needed, or I'm leaving, or goodbye. It is possible to say these things internally. It's possible to say them verbally and to mean them. And what this does is it gives you an alternative. You could, of course, go out guns blazing, and if you want to, don't let me stop you. I'm not saying that's bad. I've done it myself in certain situations, of course. But if you want an alternative, you can go out feeling differently and putting a different energy out into the world. It's an option, which leads us to our very first listener question for today. Now, this is a general question that a number of people have asked me over the years. So no specific author of the question on this one. And it involves toxic people or toxic situations where people have often told me, okay, this situation didn't teach me anything. Why should I even consider being compassionate about it? Okay? Didn't teach me anything. Why should I even entertain this? This just doesn't sound like something I should even do. Well, and my answer to that is, if this resonates with you, if you're listening today and this resonates with you, you don't have to. Right? You don't have to apply any of these principles. You might consider them, but you don't have to. So first and foremost, you don't have to. And I would argue that no matter what the situation is, it did teach you something. Whatever it is, it did teach you something. Even if a toxic relationship with somebody taught you, oh my God, never again. I'm never putting myself in that situation again. Is not that a valuable lesson? I would argue that it is. Moving on. Item 18. Practice forgiveness. Practice forgiveness. This stems directly from moving on from limiting beliefs or adverse situations with compassion. This will be a topic that we will cover on this show in weeks to come in great detail, because there's a lot here. There are a lot of personal stories. There are a number of things that we could say. And of course, almost every world spiritual tradition has a lot to say about forgiveness. So to the extent, I'll just say today, so that we can continue on with our list, I do want to mention this. It's in the book, it's covered in the book, and we will cover it here on the show in much greater detail in the weeks to come. It's fundamental to our health. It's fundamental to our well-being to be able to forgive to the extent that you're ready to do it. It doesn't mean that you have to blanket forgive every person that has harmed you right now. If you can, great. But if you can't, then forgive the dog for peeing on the carpet this morning. Right? Forgive yourself for forgetting your keys, and something like that. Right? For example, start where you can on this, but the importance of this should be emphasized, and I do emphasize it. So the next item on our list as we continue on with things that you can do is the 19th, actually, and it is to spend time in peaceful situations or in peaceful places or with peaceful people. So the theme here is put yourself in a position to feel good. Very important. Put yourself in a position to feel good, where you feel good. Now, where is that? This could be someplace where you're doing an activity that you love. Maybe you're a surfer. Maybe you're a hiker, a skier. Maybe like my wife Cindy and me, we actually love tropical beaches. And we are actually right here on the Gulf of Mexico, the state of Yucatan, in Mexico right now, December 31st, where it is supposed to be about 80 degrees Fahrenheit today. That's a peaceful place, a peaceful situation for us. Differs for everybody, but you'll want to, in order to sustain any kind of massive transformation in your life, you're going to want to be around people or places, situations that make you feel good. Because if you mechanically stay in a situation that continually stresses you out, yes, transformation is possible, right? There are many of us that are stubborn, very, very stubborn, and we actually can plow our way through and bull our way through quite stubbornly. However, it's easier and it's more effective if we give ourselves reason to feel good, to feel better. And whatever the peaceful place may be, it's up to you, right? A situation, it might be taking a walk in the fresh air. It could be, if you like to draw a bubble bath, do that, right? If it's reading a good book, just sitting down in front of the fire, if that's what it is. If it's going for a walk on the beach in the tropics, for example, that's what it is. So give yourself reason to feel good, whatever that looks like for you. Now we'll continue a little bit along the subject of feeling good, and we will continue with our list of things you can do. It is a process. We'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us right here on OMTimes Radio.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organisation, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at OMTimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Hi, I'm Tomas Garza, author of Decide and host of Decide to Transform on OMTimes Radio. I want to ask you, if you want something in life, have you decided on it? If not, you'll listen to a limiting story about yourself. You will say you can't, you're too old, too young, etc. Decide to transform in life. Learn what you can choose to believe instead of your limiting stories. Decide. Available now in paperback and ebook.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
Welcome back to Decide to Transform. I'm your host, Tomas Garza, and it's New Year's Eve. Thank you for joining me here live, and we are going through a list of practical items, things that you can do to sustain massive transformation in your life, especially when adverse circumstances arise, because they will. They may not arise for you for many, many months, but for some of you, it might be 15 minutes from now. Something's going to happen that you hadn't anticipated that might throw you for a loop. What will you do? These are all tools that you can keep top of mind, and I recommend that you do, have at your disposal in order to continue to move forward, to grow, to change, to transform, and transform audaciously, I might add. Before the break, we were looking at item number 19 from a list that we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, and that's spending time in peaceful situations and places, or with people that make you feel peaceful or that make you feel energized if it's high energy that you're looking for. Whatever it is, situations and people that make you feel good. And that is so important. And I also want to highlight at this point on the broadcast that next week we will be having a bit of a change to the situation here. I'm going to welcome my very first guest teacher on the show here on Decide to Transform, my longtime friend Lisa Berry, who is also the host of Light on Living on OMTimes Radio, will be joining me, and we'll have some details about that later on in the show about the topic. But this is something that she emphasizes quite a bit, is giving people reasons to feel good. And I want to follow up on that right now because it's so important in order to sustain any positive transformation. Because if you are constantly feeling horrible and awful, then it's just so much harder. And we make things hard enough on ourselves as it is. Why heap that upon ourselves? So to the extent that you're able, seek out peaceful people, situations, places, make yourself happier. It's very good for sustained transformation. Next item, number 20 on our list, is weigh the cost of staying the same against the discomfort of change. Now let me explain what I mean by that. Weigh the cost of staying the same against the discomfort, the short-term discomfort, I might add, of making changes in your life. Why is this important? Well, let's take the example of someone that needs to lose weight. Let's take an example from the physical health and weight loss world. Let's suppose that you want to lose weight in 2020. All right, you have resolved, you have decided, and I hope that you've decided and committed to doing that. To the extent that you haven't, please do, because that way it'll be much more likely to stick for you, and it won't be something that you try and dabble in for a week to 10 days and then go back to your old habits. But weighing the cost of staying the same against the discomfort of change can look like this. Short term, you may have to give some things up. If your friends like to go out to the brew pub and eat French fries and nachos and drink craft beer, and I mean high alcoholic IPAs here. I mean, let's talk some high caloric, really, really dense, tasty things like porter, stout, IPAs, even if it's lighter beers. I've lived in Oregon almost half my life. I know what I'm talking about with some really, really great stuff here. And if you know what I mean, a lot of calories. So you may have to give that up if you decide to transform your physical self and lose weight. Okay, what will that cost? Well, it might cost some short-term enjoyment. Yes. But let's say you really need to lose weight. So on the other side, what's the cost of staying the same? You might have to buy new clothes, larger clothes to fit you. That's an expense. But what about your physical health? What if you are at risk of diabetes, for example? Or what if you're at risk of a heart attack? What then? Right? What then? What will you have to pay in medical bills if you don't address the situation? How about relationally? If you don't make it, if you're not around, let's say you're a parent, you won't be there for your kids. If you're a grandparent, you won't be there for your kids or your grandkids. So, what is the cost? Sometimes, for some people, the cost of staying the same is their own life. You may think that this is an extreme example, but it happens in real life all the time. So are you willing to part with oatmeal stout in order to transform your life and make sure that you're there for your friends, for your family, in a healthy way, in a productive way where you can actually energetically interact with them? Or would you rather go to the bar with your friends? It's a question only you can answer. This is what I mean. It's an example of what I mean by weigh the cost of staying the same versus the discomfort of change. And there's no better day, in my opinion, to talk about this than New Year's Eve, when people are getting ready to embark on a brand new year, and it's natural, it's normal to wish to do things differently. It's natural and it's normal to make resolutions. We've all done it. It's natural and it's normal to resolve to do things and see things differently in the year ahead. But what it will take is decision and a commitment. You really must decide to transform. Otherwise, a weight loss regimen is going to last a very short time before you go back to your habits. Why? Because you're not actually transforming the internal files. You're not effecting change at the level of the mind where it needs to be effected in order to show up in the physical world. That's an example that I mentioned at the top of the show, and I mention it again now. I will mention it again if I do not remember to mention it in the last half hour of the show today. It will come up in future shows because this is the way transformation works. You actually have to change the internal files. Without that, then the external file will continue to look the same again and again and again. So, what costs more, staying the same or the discomfort, short-term discomfort of change? It's for you to decide that. Item 21, moving on a lighter note here, cultivate a sense of humor. So important. It's so important that we are able to laugh. Laughing relaxes us. It releases hormones that combat stress. It makes us smile. And it takes far more muscles to actually frown than it does to smile. So physically, it's better for you. And let's think about, if you cultivate a sense of humor and you're joyful and laughing, let's think about our roles as teachers in this world. Whether you hold yourself out as an instructor or a trainer or a teacher or not, it doesn't make any difference because you are interacting with people all the time vibrationally just by being in a room with them. So what are you teaching? In other words, what are you showing other people? Are you showing them joy and laughter and happiness? Will you be showing them that as often as you can? And when you fall out of that, will you remember to return to it? Cultivating a sense of humor, so important in all of life. Okay, the next item on our list of things that you can do is actually number 22. We're getting toward the end here. And this is, in the book, is claim your power by identifying with it. Okay, let's break this one down. Claim your power by identifying with it. In other words, you are your own power. The solutions that we're looking for are not outside of us. That may sound contradictory, and it's even shocking to some people. In fact, for years when I was teaching mediation, I was a mediator, I taught conflict resolution sometimes at the graduate level, sometimes at the undergraduate level at a major state university in the U.S. And it never ceased to amaze me, the resistance that I would get to this basic premise that the answers have to come from within. That's where the answers are. That's where your power lies. It's you. Because honestly, nobody else can make decisions for us. And I had students in classes, in graduate level seminars, that wanted to argue with me about that. That said, no, I don't have any power over my life. So-and-so's got power over me. My boyfriend's got power over me. My girlfriend's got power. My wife, my husband, my boss. Everybody's got power over me. And in reality, you're the one that has all of the power. Why? Because you have the power to decide. You have the power of choice, and nobody else can choose for you. They can select things for you to do, but you can choose whether you do them or whether you don't. And this even applies in a top-down hierarchical work situation with a boss at the top and workers underneath that person. Right? You're never really underneath somebody in that way. However, in that situation where everybody's agreed that so-and-so's in charge, everybody has to follow the rules or else there will be potential consequences. So it may feel like you're disempowered, it may feel like you're powerless to change, but in reality, you are not powerless. You're never powerless because the power of decision, the power of choice, always, 100% of the time in life rests with you. And that never changes. You could choose to give that power away. You could choose to ignore it, right? To disclaim it and say you don't have it, that you're totally powerless. But who actually makes the choice? It's you. You do. You're the one that chooses. So you can choose, decide to transform, or you can decide to remain the same. And every minute of every day, every moment, in fact, we are looking at a choice. And it's not something that I would encourage you not to say, I have to make this choice. I mean, yes, but much more helpful, in my opinion, is the language get to. I get to choose. That is empowering because I get to make a choice. It gives you the power. That very language, get to versus have to, is so important and it's so critical because it keeps the power to affect change where it belongs, and that is with you. And this is something that, again, incidentally, on the show, we will come back to in the weeks to come. Is claim your power by identifying with it. You have the power of decision in your life. So please, please, please be aware of that. And when you become aware of that, if you've forgotten, remember to use that. You are that power. It is you. And along with that, item 23 on our list here is tell yourself that you cannot fail. If you make a decision to transform, you can make another decision to transform. It's moment to moment. If you do that, outer circumstances will begin to arrange themselves. Yes, this may take time, and no, you may not believe this at first, but the more that you tell yourself that you are powerful, the more you tell yourself that you are, in fact, the power that you're looking for, that you cannot fail, that you're not stuck, that you're all powerful, if that helps you. That's something that I mention in the book. And I do that quite deliberately, because if you tell yourself that you cannot fail, then you are much more likely to believe that, to have that sink in, and that is a part of our conscious reprogramming of our mental files. It's like a computer programmer. It really is, guys. If that analogy works for you to the extent that it does, that's what we're doing, because we're going in there and we're rewriting all of our habitual files so that our outer reality looks different. Okay. So only 2 more items left. The next to last, item number 24, is lean on the power of community. So this is a very, very important one, and one that we'll talk about over the next several minutes here, because it seems like all of this is happening sometimes in isolation, isn't it? Because we and we alone are the ones that are responsible for making the choices in our lives. It's us, right? We are the ones that get to decide things, whether we do X or whether we do Y, whether we lose weight or whether we don't, whether we go to the gym or whether we go to the brew pub, for example. It seems like we're acting in isolation. However, we're very social beings. And we've talked about that in different contexts here on the show, in terms of we are always teaching and we're always putting out a vibration. So are you conveying laughter, joy, and happiness, or are you conveying feelings of disempowerment, sadness, frustration, and fear? We talked about that a few minutes ago. Community is very, very important, and we will talk more about this. And after the break, we'll also experience a guided meditation about getting yourself unstuck. So more on the power of community after the break here. We'll take a quick commercial message, and you're listening to Decide to Transform here on OMTimes Radio. We'll be right back.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Hi, I'm Tomas Garza, host of Decide to Transform on OMTimes Radio. Thank you for listening. You know, there's only so much we can cover on a 1-hour show. If you'd like to hear further from me, I happily offer personalized teachings. Get your very own voice recording or book a one-on-one consultation. Ask a burning question and gain clarity on achieving massive transformation in your life. Details available on my website, tomasgarza.com.
I am Fidel Nsombo. I was born in a city called Bukavu in the Congo. We were a loving family, and then, boom, everything that I had disappeared in a single day. People think that when you are a refugee and they resettle you to America, and all your problems are done. They don't understand that that's the beginning of everything. I was not born a refugee. I was made one.
It's time we welcome refugee families with open arms. Learn more at embracerefugees.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Decide to Transform. I'm your host, Tomas Garza, and we are nearing the end of our list of practical things that you can do. And the title of the show is It's a Process, Things You Can Do, and this is part 3 of the series. Before the break, we were looking at the next to last item on our list, and that is lean on the power of community. And I want to address this because we have a couple of very, very good listener questions on this segment of the broadcast today. And the very first of these is from Carrie from Seattle, who asks, what is your take on online communities? All right, Carrie, thank you very much for submitting the question. What is my take on online communities? Well, I'm on some. I enjoy communicating with people live and in person, but also because of the nature of my own work. I work remotely almost entirely on the internet or over the telephone, so I do not have a set office. I am living with my wife in Mexico, which you may know. I'm on the beach in the state of Yucatan, and a lot of the people that I talk with are elsewhere in the world, in the United States, in Canada, other parts of Mexico, Europe, Australia. Really, it's a global world, and technology has made it so that we're not necessarily always in each other's presence at all times. Therefore, I am involved in some online communities, and there are a number of them out there. So this is something that may apply to you. With the internet and the advent of modern technology, everything in the world, quite literally, is available. It's at our fingertips, and you can meet like-minded people. That's the thing, is you can meet and you can be around and associate with like-minded people virtually. It's very, very good to be able to do it live and in person, but to the extent that you choose not to, or to the extent that that is not physically possible with your situation, then my advice is to seek out that community if you feel a burning desire to do that. It's very important. So thank you, Carrie, for submitting that question. And we have one more here. But before we ask this, I'd like to just say a couple of words. Some of you may be experiencing some resistance to this item, lean on the power of community. You might consider yourself an introvert, and you might think that you've got it all. You can just recharge and do your thing all by yourself. Why community? Why do you need them? Okay, here's the question. This question was submitted via email by Mika from Orange County, and Mika writes, I consider myself an introvert. Okay, why such emphasis on community? Okay, but Mika, that's a very good question. Thank you for submitting that. I can relate to the introvert part of the equation. This may sound weird because I've been talking for almost 50 minutes here on a global, worldwide, live radio show. I'm a radio show host. I'm an author. I have taught and stood in front of sometimes fairly large crowds to give lectures, classes, webinars. I've done a lot of work in front of people and with an audience in my life. However, I very much enjoy, while I enjoy meeting with people, and that does energize me, face-to-face, live, shaking hands, talking to people directly and in person, I get an equal amount of charge from recharging my batteries. And that I have to do alone. And that is what I think of when I think of an introvert. As I think of somebody that recharges and gains energy from being by themselves and relaxing or processing in the way that's best for them. That's how I look at it. And sometimes I really see myself as both an introvert and an extrovert. So there are times where I am at a social function and I will happily visit with people, and then I'll have to go step outside and get some fresh air. Now, this happens, and it sometimes is back and forth and back and forth. And I recently had, in the last few months, a situation like that. I allowed party with food, and it was a party for my wife Cindy's work and her work associates. These are all people that I know very, very well. I'm close friends with many of them, so it's fun to socialize, but I also had to get away from the party and go outside and get fresh air, and I would go back and forth over the course of 3 or 4 hours. Just an example, I did this 2 or 3 times, so there's need for both. I completely acknowledge that, and we're never truly acting in isolation, are we? Right? We're never truly acting completely in isolation. It's really hard in today's world to completely wall yourself off. Especially with technology. It just doesn't happen that we're able to wall ourselves off like that. So, like we were talking about a minute ago, online communities are out there. It's always possible to reach out to and find like-minded people. And it gives us as human beings a tremendous sense of belonging and a sense of satisfaction to do that, because we're such a social species that it feels good to us. It helps us on a physical and cellular level to connect with people, even if we only do it every so often. Still necessary. So thank you, Mika, very much for the question. And thank you for having the bravery to ask this. I know there are other people out there listening today that are introverted as well, or they certainly consider themselves to be. So the procedure for this, in case you're wondering, is I love to read listener questions over the air, and I'm happy to do that. The best way to get them to me is via email, and that is tomas@tomasgarza.com. That's Tomas. There's no H. This is the Spanish variety. Tomas@tomasgarza.com. Send me an email with the question, and I would be happy to read it on the air and answer it for the entire world. And these are great things. It's a great thing to do. If you choose not to email me and we're connected on Facebook, then that is fine. You're welcome to send me the question on Facebook Messenger. I may ask you to clarify a couple of things, and then we'll chat real briefly, and we can have the question addressed on the air. And if you do that, I guarantee you'll be doing a service not only to yourself, but to many other people, because it always happens that somebody else has the same question you do. You're not alone. You're never alone in this. There's always somebody else that wants to have the same information, and they may benefit from the information very, very highly. And it may change their world. It may change their life. It may alter the course of their day, which may alter the course of their next day and the day after that. And pretty soon it was a life-changing moment when someone stepped up and asked a question. Right? They stepped out and did it. So that is the procedure. Please feel welcome to do that. All questions are welcome. Tomas@tomasgarza.com. All right. Last item on our list as we finish up and draw this to a conclusion here is decide yet again to act. Make a decision to act. Whatever you want to do. Do you want to lose weight in 2020? Do you want certain income goals? Do you want a different career, a more loving relationship? Something like that, right? Do you want to go deeper in your spiritual life? Do you want to start yoga? Do you want to start meditation? Do you want to take up swimming? Do you want to move to another city in 2020? There's no better day to think about these things than December 31st, because tomorrow starts a brand new year. What do you want to do? Decide to do it so that you don't dabble and you're not back to the same old on January 10th. Most New Year's resolutions, as we all know, as we've all experienced, don't last. So make a decision, yet again, to act. And this wraps up our list here of things that you can do to begin massive transformation, and once you've begun, to continue the momentum and achieve massive transformation in your life, to continue to rewrite our internal programming so that our external situations show up differently. Every item that we've been through is 100% doable, and you don't have to do them all at once. There are 25 of them that we've covered over the past 3 shows. So my suggestion is, if you don't have a copy of the book Decide, pick that up. It's chapter 21, and you can just leaf through it. It's a list with very little description in the book of the items. You can go through and see which one resonates for you, because that's always my thought. With all of personal growth, with all of personal transformation, is by all means take what applies to you, because you are not stuck where you are. So to anchor that statement that you are never stuck, let's do a short 3 to 4 minute guided meditation and just let this sink in. So wherever you find yourself here, whether you're at home or walking on the beach, for example, wherever you're listening to this broadcast, just take a couple of minutes here and relax with me. And just focus on your next in-breath. And feel the air entering your lungs and your body and expanding your chest. And as you exhale, feel the sensations in your body of the air leaving your body. And continue to breathe at your normal rate. Don't forget to breathe. Inhale. Exhale. And at this point, as you continue to breathe normally, focus on what it is that you want. What is the number one thing that you would like to do in the new year? And place your attention on that and feel what that looks like. If you wish to lose weight, feel what it is like to throw your old, larger clothing away. How do you feel? How do you feel when you take a new picture and you've lost many pounds, and you look hot? How does that feel? Stay with that feeling. And tell yourself that you're never stuck. Repeat to yourself. You can do this out loud, or you can do it silently in your mind. I am never stuck. I am never stuck. You can take the next step. See yourself doing it. If you wish to lose weight and your friend offers you a pint of dark beer, picture yourself saying, "No, thank you." For example, you're never stuck. Tell yourself, say it and mean it. I am never stuck. And as you come out of this brief meditation, just focus on one more round of your breathing. Inhale and exhale. And know that no matter what life throws at us, whether it's a temptation in the form of a goodie, or whether it's a physical illness, or something that we really weren't looking forward to, that we're never stuck. You're never stuck. You can always take that next step. Oh, this concludes our mini-series of things that you can do to achieve massive transformation in your life. And I want to remind you before we go that next week I am happy and excited to have our very, very first guest teacher on Decide to Transform, my longtime friend, Lisa Berry. We'll be talking about mind chatter, and the title of her show is Self-Talk Transformation. Talk yourself out of failure and into success. We will be looking at the ways we occupy our minds with constant chatter and babble, which is something that we all do, and it's very easy to do that with modern technology. So much is coming at us, so much information. How are we processing that? Join Lisa and me next week. That is Tuesday, the 7th of January. She will be the first of our guest teachers here on the show, and this is something that I plan to offer periodically. It's going to be high energy and a lot of fun. We will see you next week. Have a happy new year, everybody. All right. Thanks for tuning in.